Welcome to Storytime with Gina and Zena. Hi, I'm ZBexx.
I'm Covert Go Gina.
And today we are on the final episode of Wilds of Eldraine, episode 5, Broken Oaths by K. Arsenault Rivera.
Who's our other cast member today?
This is Halo. She's our newest addition to the household. She's just 10 weeks old, so she is going to be hanging out with us on this episode and maybe a few more until she gets okay being on her own. And also, who is our other co-host behind us?
Oh, can you see her?
Yes,
Ember.
Awesome.
Ember also needs to be in the room with me.
Oh,
she heard me talking about her. Hi, sweetie.
Well, and that is relevant because we do have dogs in this story. Oh, we have another co-host. Who's our third co-host?
Lupin is here as well. Lupin the cat is lonely and needs to hang out with me and Ember a lot.
We love that. All right, the whole crew is here. Gina, what are we up to right now?
Kellan and Ruby got some ponies off screen, and they show up riding these really cool ponies. Ruby has a big ice sword, also given to her off screen.
Cue Monty Python coconuts and suddenly a magical giant ice sword that she's able to conceal.
Maybe it's like a lightsaber and the ice extends when she takes it out of her pocket. So they arrive at Castle Ardenvale and it's quiet. It's too quiet. And they don't want to hurt the sleeping guards, so Kellan's like, oh yeah, I got a second bottle of frogification. Ruby's like, oh yeah, this time I'm going to be a frog. And so that's what they do. Ruby becomes a frog, and they jump over the castle gates together and land easily, and no one sees them.
It's leapfrog time. Don't have to hurt anybody.
So they tiptoe through a spooky hallway, following the violet wisps in the air, and they hear footsteps. And peek around a corner and they see Rowan Kenrith, daughter of the High King, celebrity. Kellan is ecstatic. Rowan must have figured everything out just like them. So Kellan's psyched about this, and he dashes into the room to propose a team up. Like, Rowan, I mean Lady Kenrith, like, be careful with the curse. Rowan looks at him like, who are you? What are you doing here? And Ruby's like, we came to defeat the witch, just like you. We're heroes.
And they even see this curse smoke flowing around Rowan, and they're like, oh, the witch must have put a curse on you. We dealt with Agatha. We can help you. How can we help you break the curse?
Rowan's not into their vibe, and her fingers start crackling with sparks. And she says, I think the two of you should leave. And Kellan's like, oh, okay, I get it. You can probably handle it alone. Maybe you don't want help, but I do need to be with you because I promised to help end the curse. And Rowan glows up with sparks, and Kellan's vision goes white. End scene.
A little bit of paper that Kellan finds, and Kellan is like, attempt 23. She fails to put victim to sleep, and it's like, oh, that is you getting put to sleep.
So Kellan wakes up when Ruby throws a bucket of ice-cold water on him. After the ice bucket challenge, he asks, where are we? And Ruby says, take a look around, hero. Sir Rowan knocked us out. She's trying to work some kind of dream magic on you when I woke up, but then the cavalry arrived and she had to go deal with it. So I got my sword back and I freed you.
Yeah, can't you hear all the banging and clanking and all the noises that are going on downstairs? Rowan left to go deal with that, so that's the only reason why I was able to get us free and deal with the knights and splash the water on you.
Kellan just can't believe that Rowan would turn on them based on their long-standing relationship of 5 minutes. But Ruby says Rowan thought she was helping us and kept saying if she could get the spell right, we would thank her. So they also somehow gleamed her interior motives, and yeah, they go rush toward the battle. So now we go back into Rowan's POV, and she wishes she'd had more than a few weeks to study dream magic with Eriette. Her brother's knights are bursting through the gates, and Eriette's on her throne, and she's using dream magic to control a whole army of sleepers. And Rowan's kind of impressed because she couldn't even keep the two kids asleep and give them a dream. And Ashiok isn't here, so it's just the two of them right now.
Ashiok's like, peace, off to do other business elsewhere. Nightmare's over here, ooh, ooh. Nightmare's over there, ooh, ooh.
Imodane from episode 1 is in the vanguard and shouts for them all to stand down under the order of His Majesty High King of Eldraine.
With her wooden arm.
Yeah. Stands out in a crowd. And Rowan is so irritated that Imodane is just carelessly shooting fire at innocent sleepers. It's very rude. So Rowan builds up her sparks and shoots a bolt at Imodane's feet and booms, "There is no High King in Eldraine. Go back to the Pretender or I'll zap you."
Yeah, Rowan's like, really? This chick again? Her blood literally boils from seeing Imodane so much that she feels the sparks in her blood and is able to channel it now, where she throws this little tantrum.
And Imodane is just shocked that Rowan is there. Didn't expect that, I guess. And then Rowan spots her brother riding on his white horse behind the vanguard with his sword drawn. He's not even wearing a helmet. What an idiot.
Just his crown.
She thinks to herself, like, God, he's a terrible king. He's like, "Hey, sis, what are you doing?" And she's a little sad because he's looking at her like he doesn't know her anymore and like he's afraid of her. And she's like, I'm learning how to save the realm. He's like, "By cursing it with witches? This isn't like you. Please come home."
She's having a complete like Jekyll and Hyde moment, not knowing who she is. And then we have Will coming in, the brother and sister. It's almost like Thor and Loki when Loki goes for power and Thor's like, "No, don't you see? Dad always wanted you to rule too."
She can't just go back to the way things were, and doesn't feel like she's ever going to be all right again. And he doesn't get that. So she charges forward with her sword. She's beaten everyone back. And she reaches her brother and levels her sword at him. Says, "Home is gone, Will." And he tries to de-escalate. He dismounts. He doesn't draw his weapon. And he says, "No, it isn't. Hazel and Eric need us." Like, we keep forgetting they have siblings.
Rowan also is saying talking isn't going to help anymore and is just going swing after swing at him, which the knights who are on his side kind of are backing up like, whoa, this is a brother-sister rivalry. We're going to stay out of this.
Yeah. So they're arguing about diplomacy versus action, and she slashes at his chest, and he's finally forced to have to block. And Rowan is stronger than him. She's always been stronger than him. So she's beaten him back. And like you said, nobody's interfering. And the thing that finally stops her is her feet get frozen to the floor.
Yeah, Will is not putting up with her just trying to violently attack him. He literally freezes her feet so that he can talk to her, whether or not she's going to listen.
Yeah, and he says, "Ro, I'm sorry. I didn't help you when you needed it." And she wasn't expecting such genuineness. And so she feels some pain in her chest and she can't look at him. And she glances towards Eriette and her heart sinks when she sees the children have gotten loose and are attacking the throne. She looks back to Will and he's looking at her. "You want to save the witch?" And she's like, "She's our aunt. The magic is in our blood, Will. We can use it to save Eldraine. No one has to suffer or die. We can keep them safe." And he says, "I don't know you anymore."
Who are you?
Didn't like that. So her fingers spark and she blasts the vanguard. And she's got all these waves of anger and hurt and frustration. She's just firing at her faithless former friends. All these people knew how badly she was hurting and they left her to rot. And after she lets out her rage, she takes a breath and the dust clears. And she really didn't have an impact because they're protected by a big cocoon of ice.
Bro's got some new tricks up his sleeve.
And Will isn't getting upset either. He's just like, "This isn't going to work." And Rowan says, "You don't know that." And so she charges at him with her sword again. Because, you know what? I'm always better at swords than him. So I'm going to try that. And Imodane comes in with the hardwood hand and blocks it. And Imodane says, "Don't you get it? He's going to unify the realm. Even I can see that. And I was the villain in the first episode." Then somebody makes a dramatic entrance.
Cue Ashiok. And cue the action scene because here we go.
Oh yeah, Ashiok is way better at controlling dreamers than Eriette, so it's on now. They're all just happening. And Imodane and Rowan are fighting, gets cracked right in the nose. Rowan does, but Rowan knows she needs to just hold out long enough for Eriette to send everybody to sleep. A dozen knights step forward to defend Will, and it's 13-1, and Rowan likes the odds. She's just gonna tear through all these fools.
And in response to Imodane breaking Rowan's nose, Rowan also takes the pommel of her sword and shoves it in Imodane's face, and she cries out and is like getting a metal pommel to your face sounds worse than getting your nose broken.
I can only imagine like a curse in this world would be something like Mother Elfer or something.
You freaking filthy fae.
Yeah, there you go. Will says, these people are all here because they believe in a united Eldraine. You can't just force people to do whatever you want. And Rowan says, well, you're just too weak to do it. Would diplomacy have stopped Oko or the Auric? And the guards start going down. They're all falling asleep, and Rowan's fighting through them. And she says, do you think our parents would be alive now if you talked to the Phyrexians? And she launches herself at him, and they fight.
I love that line where she literally says, would talking with the Phyrexians have worked? Then she goes on to rant about all that she cares about is power, and then she is sparring to show power is the only thing that matters.
And she tells him, your army has fallen asleep. It's over. And he smiles and says, don't be so certain. And then she turns and sees Will had sent an ice bolt, and it strikes Ashiok in the chest. Turned out all of this worked out because the boy with the whip was holding them in place long enough for Will to strike.
During some of the sparring, Rowan kind of looks over and sees Kellan and is like, well, his golden whip is cute, but it doesn't have enough effect to really destroy Eriette. These kids think they're heroes, but they're just kids. And then realizes in this moment, it was all so that Will would have enough time to get that shot.
Yeah, even though the story doesn't go into it very much, Kellan and Ruby have been very actively trying to get to Eriette with the golden whip and the ice sword. They've been doing their thing.
The ice starts going through Ashiok's veins, and that's no bueno for Ashiok.
No, smoke swallows them and they disappear. They are out. Then Rowan's like, oh, Ashiok still had their spark. Not fair.
Yeah, rude.
So now Ruby has gotten close enough to put her ice sword to Eriette's throat, just holding her in place. And Eriette sends like a little telepathy to Rowan and says, hey, you got to get out of here. When the time's right, we'll meet again. And Rowan thinks back, but I can't lose anyone else. And Eriette says, you won't. They won't kill me. They're too soft. We're just going to wait.
Yeah, we'll reconvene later, girly. See you at, some other place another time.
And now Rowan is alone, watching someone she cares about in danger again. And if she doesn't listen to Eriette, her brother's going to imprison her and try to fix her. And if she pretends to be all right, he gets to stay High King, and she'll be the woman who rebelled and the woman he graciously forgave. And that's just the worst. She can't deal with it. So she takes a big breath and she sends all her power down, and boom, she shoots off into the sky. And one day she's going to bring the blessed slumber to all of Eldraine.
Yeah, when she's up above, she can somehow see the spider web of the slumber around the kingdom and can see how eventually that spider web of slumber will make the entire kingdom sleep, just like how Royce, the spider, had said all things must eventually come to a rest, whether they choose to or are forced to. Eventually, Eldraine will have its day.
High King Kenrith tells Kellan and Ruby he's never met children braver than they are. They're welcome like family in the palace whenever they like. But he's a little distant. He's still hurting about his sister. And Ruby asks, hey, can I bring my brother? And Will's like, sure, I don't care. It's fine. And Kellan slips away and steps into the Fae world.
Yeah, permanent invitation to go hang out at the royal palace whenever you want. It's like the end of the episode at Star Wars. They're getting their medals.
And Ruby's like, and I need my +1.
Yeah. Hey, can I get my bro in too? All right, cool.
We don't get to see Kellan in the Fey world because we're cutting to Kellan returning home to his sleepy village and his family farm. And the bullies from the first episode are glaring at him, but he's stronger now and he's not bothered by bullies. And he's greeted by his dog, Hex.
Oh.
His mom and stepfather hear the dog barking. They welcome him home with tears, and his mom gives him this beautiful coat she made for him. It's got super detailed embroidery. He's so impressed. He's like, I can't even wear this. I might ruin it. It's so great. And she laughs and is like, oh, no, it's enchanted. It's perfectly safe.
Okay, first off, he's so sweet. Such a sweet boy for being like, oh, I don't want to wear this outside. I will dirty my new coat. But the other thing, this coat has embroidery of elk and primroses and a very fancy lining with scenes of a girl chasing a man painted with blue skin. Alarm bells are going off in my head right now. So that is your clue. Like that, we just got a major clue dropped right there. But go ahead, go on.
Now, I'm not sure about this. I've reread the description a few times. Is the coat like, are the images actively moving? Like, how magical is this coat? Because I could see it either way based on the description. What do you think?
I kind of imagined it like a cave dwelling painting, how maybe it was a scene going across the inside of the lining of like a girl chasing the blue-skinned boy. So that's how I envisioned it. But
okay.
we are in such a magical world. I like the idea of it having movement itself.
What if when different light hits it, it just kind of changes a little bit?
Yeah, like a taffeta. I could see that.
He sits down at the table with his mom and he confides the Fey Lord didn't tell him anything about his father, and he told them he wanted to go home and hear the story from his mother when she thought he was ready. And her eyes well up with tears. Because what a sweet, mature boy.
He wanted to wait until the time was right, till she was ready.
Yeah. So she tells him that she met his father during her training. She was gathering nightshade and found this man lying in the flowers, and they talked, and she learned his name was Oko! He called her pretty, because that always works, and told her that he's not from any realms that she's ever seen, and asks her to tell him about Eldraine, because he's new to the area, and he answered her questions about other realms, and she answered his about Eldraine. And for years, she heard his voice from crows and trees and baked goods to set up their next meeting.
One of the times when they would meet after she would hear his voice in a nightshade glen, which he talks too about where they'd meet in another realm, and it just makes me think of the secluded glen, which is a magic card.
Yeah.
It's from Lorawan.
So he told and showed her many things, and she learned more magic from him than from her mistress. And he whispered secrets and promised her a throne. But then it got weird. The town didn't want anything to do with her for being a witch, and his father was upset by this. She wanted to go away with him, but he wouldn't take her. And then he started hurting people who were unkind to her. And she realized, we can't keep going like this. It feels bad no matter how much I love him. And she decided she wasn't meant to be a queen and wanted peace. And he kind of just wanted to burn the place to the ground for offending her.
And she was so unfair to be stereotyped. The phrase goes, once a witch, always a witch. Just because she apprenticed under a witch doesn't make her a bad person. She got put in a box, and then that made Oko and go crazy and ruined their relationship. So she broke it off.
But he did visit again 3 years ago, and he called to her. And though the girl within her wanted to go, the woman she'd become just didn't want to give up what she had. She finishes, he asks, could you tell me more about what he was like? And she gives him a little sad smile, and she's like, yeah, whatever you'd like to know.
So he gets tons of stories into the night before he goes to bed.
And so then we cut to later, and Kellan can't sleep, too excited. His mother had said his father was fond of changing shapes, so maybe they'd already met. And why hadn't his father spoken to him? Is he not good enough? So he's getting all in his head about the whole thing.
I'm getting all in my head about who his dad might have shapeshifted to.
So he goes for a walk with his nice new coat in the woods, which he's no longer scared of because he's like done a bunch of stuff now. And his dog comes too, and his dog catches a scent and takes off. Kellan follows, and they find a portal.
And this portal doesn't quite look like all of the portals that he had been using to get from the Fey realm to where all the other witches were that Talion had provided. This portal has like these weird triangle shapes, and the place he can see through doesn't look like any of the places he went before.
Yeah, he's never seen a place that looked like this before. And he knows about other realms now because of his conversation with his mom. So what if this is his dad's way of reaching out? So he steps forward and he thinks to himself, I'm not leaving home. I'm just going to take a trip, like going to the store. I'll be right back. So he pets his dog and steps through the portal.
Yeah, BRB, like, didn't even leave a message. Is like, I'll be back soon. Like, it's cool.
I'll be home for dinner.
Yeah.
Last epilogue scene. Eriette. Eriette awakes in her jail cell and sees Ashiok has returned for her. So she asks, hey, what took you so long? Where's Rowan? And Ashiok says, she's not yet ready for what must be done. And Eriette frowns like, but we can give her a chance to learn. And Ashiok's like, yeah, opportunity calls us in a new direction. You will learn much and can return to teach her if you wish. By then you'll have servants and a new queendom. Eriette's like, oh, hell yeah, I like that. And decides Rowan will be okay till I get back.
Poof, yeah.
Darkness falls, Eriette's chains fall to the ground, and in the morning when they search the cell, she'll be gone. Woo!
Eriette and Ashiok are off on a new adventure. They're going to somehow get an army, each of them, some souls somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, let the sleepy times continue. And I did wear my Pokemon Sleep cardigan today.
Oh, that's
for
perfect,
the sleepy
the
times.
Snorlax. Yes, and that is the end of our Wilds of Eldraine story, which is why I wore my storybook sweater today.
As always, we are very fashionable.
Do you have any final thoughts about this story that you want to share before we go into our regular stuff?
Yeah, I got some thoughts. I do have some thoughts. Okay. So, real talk here. Rowan, I hear ya, girl. Like, I get it. Like, I really relate to Rowan this whole arc because, like, you and I both know, like, how hard grief is. We both experienced it this year. And
yes.
Sometimes you just feel like, oh, life is just never going to be that good again because I'm missing this now. And she feels so isolated and alone because her brother's not dealing with it the same way as her. And that is hard and that is painful to read. And so she sees this opportunity of a new family member, and even that's being taken away from her. Like, I can relate to everything she's going through in this story. And so for most of it, like, she's kind of my hero in the whole thing. But the part that I still can't get behind is like, Rowan, my dear, there's a little problem called consent. And I love this idea of, like, let's put everyone in a dream world where you can be reunited with those you love and everything is great forever. I actually was just watching the season 2 of Demon Slayer, where there's an episode where the main character gets stuck in a dream world where all his family members are fine and they're happy together, and it's so hard for him to leave. So I feel that deeply. But she wants to make the choice for people and they don't even know what's happening to them. So that's the part where it's not good.
It's funny that you mentioned that episode of Demon Slayer, because I thought you were maybe going to mention the season of Wanda on Marvel, or even an episode of WandaVision, or there's an episode of Rick and Morty as well, where like everything's perfect but it's actually like alien stuff and it's bad. Anytime we see that scenario, and it's never the other people's choice,
but it's that temptation, right? Like, if you could be in that dream, with the ones you love for a while.
Oh
my gosh. Who would not be tempted by that?
She's
Anyone
like, yeah,
would be tempted.
She's like, I'm joining the sleep too. Like, we're all going down.
Yeah, she's feeling the pain so hard and doesn't have any way to deal with it, and no one's helping her deal with it. And so she wants to escape into this because her brother's throwing himself into leadership. And so he's got a job. He's got something to do. She doesn't have anything to do like that. So without something to give her purpose, she kind of just wants to escape into this.
Well, and now that you've mentioned this, the bond that she's made with Eriette, the only person who did make a connection with her during this time of great loss, we got some foreshadowing here with that ESP moment that they're going to reconvene and raise havoc later. And Rowan's probably going to be pretty faithful for her and might even at that point need to choose between her aunt or her brother.
Well, when she's missing parental figures in her life and now a new parental figure has arrived, how could she not want to latch onto that?
Yeah. One thing that was bothering me, currently we have Oko who has blue skin and Talion who has blue skin. And I'm not saying that Oko is Talion, but like, is it possible?
Like when folks can shapeshift, anything is possible.
I know. I was like, because also Talion said some cryptic things in one of the earlier episodes. He's like, oh, I know your father. He like, what if he knows him so well because he is him? Dun, dun, dun. Okay.
What was your favorite art from this episode?
I gotta go with Will Kenrith here. This art by Ryan Pancoast of him sitting very valiantly on his steed. Having been to the cosplay contest at MagicCon Vegas, one of the winners from the novice category, a friend Ian, did a great Will Kenrith. And it's kind of crazy how much he has a resemblance to the particular drawing of the art. Also, just a great, well done cosplay. So I think that's why I'm going to pick that one as my favorite art.
For me, in lieu of there not being a Rowan art piece in this story, I also agree with you. That's my favorite art as well, because the High King has never looked more kingly than in this image.
Yeah, he finally stopped seeming wimpy and looks more deserving.
Yeah, before with everything he was doing, it was a little bit like, is this kid even doing a good job? But throughout the course of this story, you see more and more, oh, this path he's on, it's probably a really good path and it's going to work.
What was your favorite moment in this story?
As much as I want to pick a Rowan moment because I felt that so hard, I don't think I can pick just one. So if I was just picking a moment, I think it would actually be our small boy hero deciding, I think I'm just going to go take a little adventure and I'll be back soon. It'll be fun. How about you? What's your favorite moment?
Okay, my favorite moment has to be when Kellan and Ruby finally enter the castle and they are talking about where the witch might be. And they're talking about, well, if I was a witch, I'd hang out in my big throne room. And then Ruby goes on to say, oh yeah, of course, they're probably in their throne room getting fed grapes. And Kellan's like, grapes? And direct quote from Ruby, she says, it's always grapes though. Like, just like, because yeah, it's always grapes. Well, I don't know, why is it grapes? But that's what I've seen too in pop culture. The Romans getting fed grapes on their little lounges. Why is it grapes?
I'd forgotten about that. That is like the best comedy of the whole thing.
So yeah, if you know why it's grapes, let us know in the comments.
So ZBexx, what's next for Storytime? What's coming up?
First off, this story hinted at what's coming up next. I believe the realm that Oko is from that's different might be Lorwyn. He talks about hanging out in the Nightshade, and there are 2 fairies from Lorwyn block that have Nightshade in their name. And we know it was confirmed at Gen Con that we will be going there like 3 years from now. So I predict that we're going to see Oko in Lorwyn. Where is story time with Gina and Zena going next? Well, we're going to the Lost Caverns of Ixalan.
We're going to Jurassic Park.
Get your dino nuggies ready. Make sure you like and subscribe. We are on to season 3.